The orange sunset painted long shadows across the Atacama Desert as 12-year-old Isabella Martinez adjusted her dust mask and peered down into the strange depression she'd discovered. The world's driest desert had always held secrets, but nothing like this. The ground beneath her feet hummed with an energy that made her skin tingle, and the brass compass her grandfather had given her spun wildly in her pocket. "This isn't normal," she whispered, pulling out her father's old digital camera. As a geologist's daughter, she knew the desert's patterns, its rhythms, but this was different. The depression wasn't natural. Its edges were too precise, forming a perfect circle about 30 feet across. At its center, partially buried in sand, something metallic caught the dying light. Isabella glanced back toward the research station where her father worked, barely visible on the horizon. He'd be furious if he knew she'd wandered this far, but something about this place called to her. The same intuition that had helped her find rare minerals and ancient fossils now pulled her forward with an irresistible force. As she carefully made her way down the slope, the humming grew stronger. The sand shifted beneath her boots, revealing more of the metallic object. It wasn't random debris or mining equipment. The surface was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and flow like water when she wasn't looking directly at them. Just a closer look, she promised herself, though she knew it was a lie. Her heart raced as she reached the bottom of the depression. The temperature dropped noticeably, despite the desert heat. The metallic object was larger than she'd initially thought. Its surface a dark, iridescent material unlike anything she'd ever seen. Isabella reached out, her hand trembling slightly. The moment her fingers touched the surface, everything changed. The patterns erupted with light, spreading outward like ripples in a pond. The humming became a deep resonance that vibrated through her bones. She tried to pull away, but her hand seemed fused to the surface. A beam of light shot upward, scanning her from head to toe. Strange symbols appeared in the air around her, floating like holographic text. The ground beneath her feet began to shift, not like a natural earthquake, but with purpose and precision. "Help!" she called out, but her voice was swallowed by the growing resonance. The depression was transforming, mechanical components emerging from beneath the sand. Isabella watched in terror and amazement as structures unfolded around her, forming the circular chamber. The desert sky above became increasingly distant as layers of alien architecture rose from the ground. When the transformation finally stopped, Isabella found herself in a vast room filled with softly pulsing lights. The walls were covered in the same shifting patterns she'd seen on the original object, but now they moved with greater purpose, forming and reforming complex geometric shapes. A holographic interface materialized before her, displaying what appeared to be a star map. Points of light connected to form constellations she didn't recognize. In the center of the map, a single point pulsed with greater intensity than the others. "Welcome, awakened one," a voice spoke in her mind. It wasn't exactly words, more like concepts and emotions translated into something her brain could understand. "We have waited 47,000 rotations for one with the gift." Isabella's scientific upbringing warred with her instinct to run screaming. "Who? What are you?" "We are the archivists," the voice responded. "This is a nexus point, one of many scattered across your world. You are the first in many generations to activate one." Before Isabella could respond, new images filled the chamber. She saw vast cities among the stars, civilizations rising and falling, and strange beings that defied description. But most disturbing were the images of Earth, her home planet surrounded by massive ships of unknown origin. "Your world stands at a crossroads," the voice continued. "The awakened ones once served as bridges between civilizations, preventing wars that could destroy worlds. But they vanished, and the balance was lost. Now, after millennia of searching, you have been found." The images shifted to show scenes of destruction, planets torn apart by forces she couldn't comprehend. The Horizon Fleet approaches your world, believing humanity to be a threat to cosmic stability. Without an awakened one to speak for Earth, They will follow their primary protocols. Isabella's mind reeled as she processed the implications. What are you saying? What am I supposed to do? You must learn to use the gift, the voice explained. The Nexus will teach you, but time is short. The Horizon fleet will reach Earth in 14 rotations of your planet. The chamber hummed with new energy, and additional interfaces appeared around Isabella. Your first lesson begins now, Yum awakened. The fate of your world depends on your choice. Will you accept this responsibility? Isabella thought of her father, of all the people in the research station, of everyone on Earth going about their lives, unaware of the danger approaching from the stars. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady when she answered. I accept. The chamber pulsed with light, and Isabella felt knowledge begin to flow into her mind. As the sun set completely outside, casting the desert into darkness, she took her first steps toward becoming something more than just a curious 12-year-old girl. Whether she was ready or not, she had become Earth's first line of defense against an alien threat that no one else knew was coming. The next morning dawned with an unsettling normalcy that made Isabella question if she dreamed the whole thing. But the slight tremor in her hands and the strange symbols still dancing at the edges of her vision confirmed the reality of her experience. She sat at the research station's cafeteria, pushing scrambled eggs around her plate while her father, Dr. Martinez, discussed seismic readings with his colleagues. The equipment picked up unusual frequencies last night, one of the researchers said, spreading charts across the table, like nothing we've seen before. Isabella kept her head down, her heart racing. The alien knowledge the Nexus had downloaded into her mind felt like a living thing, reorganizing her thoughts, showing her possibilities that defied human science. She now understood that the seismic readings were actually the Nexus's energy signature as it connected to other hidden sites across the planet. Isabella, her father's voice snapped her back to reality. Are you feeling all right? You've barely touched your breakfast. Before she could answer, alarms blared across the station. Everyone rushed to windows and computer screens as a massive shadow fell across the desert. Above them, breaking through the morning clouds, an enormous object descended from the sky. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, reflecting the sunlight in impossible patterns. It's happening too fast, Isabella whispered. The Nexus had warned her the Horizon fleet was coming, but not this soon. This was something else. The object, a ship, she now knew, stopped about a mile above the desert floor. Smaller vessels began descending from it, their designs similar to the patterns she'd seen in the Nexus chamber. The military would be here soon, but Isabella knew they wouldn't stand a chance if these visitors were hostile. Everyone needs to stay calm, she said, standing up. Her voice carried an authority that made the adults turn to stare at her. The alien knowledge was flowing more freely now, giving her certainty. They're not here to hurt us. They're the archivists. Isabella, what are you talking about? Her father asked, but she was already moving toward the station's exit. Outside, the desert air crackled with energy. The smaller vessels had landed, forming a perfect circle around the station. From each one emerged tall, slender figures that seemed to shift between solid and liquid forms. Their bodies were composed of swirling patterns of light and shadow, like living constellations. The awakened one approaches. They spoke in unison, their voices resonating in everyone's minds. We come to prepare. Isabella walked forward, aware of the stunned silence behind her. The alien knowledge told her what to do, how to respond. She raised her hand, and patterns of light, similar to those covering the aliens' bodies, began spiraling around her arm. You're early, she said, surprising herself with her boldness. The Nexus said we had 14 days. The timeline has accelerated. The nearest archivist responded. The Horizon fleet has detected the activation of this world's Nexus points. They have altered their course. We have less than 3 days. Military helicopters appeared on the horizon, and jets screamed overhead. The archivists made no hostile moves, simply standing in their circle as chaos erupted around them. United Nations representatives would arrive within hours, Isabella knew, and the world would never be the same. Your world's defenders approach with weapons, an archivist observed. This response was predicted. It is why we chose a remote location for first contact. They're scared, Isabella explained. We've never had official contact with alien life before. Incorrect, the archivist stated. Your species has forgotten. But this is not first contact. The nexus points were built by your ancestors, working alongside the ancient coalition of worlds. Humanity chose to forget its place among the stars, retreating into isolation after the Great Collapse. This was new information, not included in her download from the Nexus. Isabella's mind raced with the implications. Our ancestors built the Nexus points. With guidance, they were among the youngest species to achieve awakened status. Their potential was vast, but fear led them to erase their own history. Now that potential must be reclaimed, or your world will face judgment from the Horizon Fleet. The military vehicles had reached them now, surrounding the landing site. Soldiers took positions, weapons raised, as officials attempted to establish communication. Isabella could sense her father's fear and confusion as he watched his daughter standing calmly among these impossible beings. I need to tell them, Isabella said. Show them what's coming. But they won't believe a 12-year-old girl. Age is irrelevant to the gift, the archivist responded. But if proof is required, it raised a hand, and the air above them shimmered. A vast holographic display appeared, visible to everyone for miles around. It showed the Horizon Fleet's approach, hundreds of massive ships moving through space with clear purpose. People of Earth, the archivist spoke, their words reaching every mind in the area. Your world stands on the brink of a moment your ancestors chose to forget. The awakened one among you carries the key to your survival. You must listen, learn, and remember. The alternative is judgment. Isabella felt the weight of every eye upon her, human and alien alike. The knowledge within her mind expanded, showing her visions of Earth's forgotten history among the stars. She saw great cities on distant worlds, human scientists working alongside beings of pure energy, and terrible wars that led to her ancestors' choice to retreat and forget. "Dad," she called out, her voice carrying across the tense silence. "I know this is crazy, but I need you to trust me. Everyone needs to trust me. Because in 3 days, Earth faces its trial, and I'm the only one who can speak in humanity's defense." The sun climbed higher in the sky as humanity faced its forgotten past and uncertain future. Isabella stood at the center of it all, no longer just a curious girl who loved exploring the desert, but Earth's ambassador to the stars. The real challenge was just beginning. Global chaos erupted within hours of the archivist's arrival. As news feeds broadcast images of the alien ships and the mysterious girl who could communicate with them, Isabella found herself at the center of an international storm. The United Nations had established a temporary command center at the research station, transforming the quiet scientific outpost into a hub of frantic activity. Isabella sat in what had once been her father's office, now filled with diplomatic and military personnel. The archivist's knowledge continued to unfold in her mind, revealing Earth's hidden history in fragments that left her gasping. Dr. Martinez hadn't left her side, his scientific skepticism warring with the impossible reality before him. "The caves," Isabella suddenly said, sitting up straight. "Dad, remember those cave paintings we found last year? The ones you said didn't match any known civilization." Before he could respond, the primary archivist materialized in the room, its crystalline form casting rainbow patterns across the walls. "You begin to remember it," it said. The markers were left as guides, should humanity ever need to reclaim its heritage. The room's occupants fell silent as holographic images appeared, showing ancient cave paintings transforming into star maps and technical diagrams. "Your ancestors were not simply part of the coalition of worlds," the archivist continued. "They were its founders." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. Admiral Rice, the military liaison, stepped forward. That's impossible. We've barely reached our own moon. Because you chose to forget, the archivist responded. The Great Collapse threatened to tear reality itself apart, rather than risk the knowledge being misused again. Humanity used the nexus points to erase their own technological advancement, retreating to a simpler existence. Isabella's head throbbed as new memories surfaced, not her own, but humanity's buried legacy. She saw vast fleets of Earth ships exploring the galaxy, humans working alongside beings of pure energy to build wonders that defied physics. And she saw the weapon they created, the one that nearly destroyed everything. The Horizon Fleet, she whispered. They're not coming to judge us. They're coming to make sure we don't remember. Correct, the archivist confirmed. They believe humanity is too dangerous to rejoin galactic civilization. The appearance of an awakened one has forced their intervention. Dr. Martinez took his daughter's hand. What exactly is an awakened one? What does it mean for Isabella? The archivist's form shifted, creating a display that showed strands of DNA transforming. Certain humans were engineered to serve as living keys to the Nexus network. They could access and control the ancient technology safely, preventing its misuse. This gift was passed down through specific bloodlines. Isabella stared at her hands, seeing them in a new light. My mother, before she disappeared, she used to tell me stories about stars that sang and cities that danced. I thought she was just being creative. She was remembering, the archivist said. The gift often manifests in dreams and stories before full awakening. Her bloodline traces back to the original architects of the Nexus points. The room erupted in urgent discussions as military and diplomatic officials tried to process the implications. But Isabella was already moving, pulled by a new understanding. We need to go to the Atacama Nexus point. Now. The Horizon Fleet will reach Earth in 48 hours, the archivist warned. Time is critical. Under heavy escort, Isabella led a convoy back to the Depression, where she'd first discovered the alien artifact. But it had transformed, the hidden chamber now fully revealed as a massive structure of shifting metal and light. As they approached, other Nexus points around the world began activating, responding to her presence. It's a defense network, she realized, the knowledge crystallizing in her mind. The Nexus points aren't just archives or portals, they're part of a planetary shield. The archivist nodded. Created by your ancestors as a last resort. But activating it requires all living awakened ones. All. Isabella turned to the alien being. You mean there are others? Scattered across Earth, their gifts dormant. The Horizon Fleet's approach has begun triggering their awakening. But they must be found and brought here within 48 hours, or Earth will be defenseless. Admiral Reyes stepped forward. How many are we talking about? 7, the archivist replied. 7 awakened ones must stand together to reactivate humanity's legacy. Isabella is the first. The others are awakening now, but they will be confused, afraid. And the Horizon Fleet has sent agents to find them first. Isabella felt the weight of time pressing down on her. Somewhere out there, 6 other people were experiencing what she had, their worlds turning upside down. She had to find them before the Horizon Fleet's agents did. More than that, she had to help them understand and accept their role in humanity's destiny. Where do we start? She asked. The archivist waved a hand, and the air filled with glowing points of light, locations where the other awakened ones were stirring to consciousness. They were scattered across the globe. The Amazon rainforest, the Siberian tundra, the Australian outback, the Sahara Desert, the Himalayan mountains, and the Pacific Ocean. Each awakened one represents a different aspect of the original coalition, the archivist explained. Together, they form a key that can either lock humanity's potential away forever or restore your species to its rightful place among the stars. Isabella squared her shoulders, drawing strength from the ancient knowledge flowing through her mind. Then we better hurry. We've got 6 people to find and convince that they're part of an ancient alien legacy, and we've got less than 2 days to do it." As if in response to her words, the sky above them rippled with distortions, the first signs of the Horizon Fleet's approaching vessels. The race to save humanity's future had begun, and time was running out. Rising storm. Global militaries mobilized as Isabella and her team raced against time. Within 24 hours, they'd located 3 other awakened ones. Raj, a 16-year-old Sherpa from Nepal, Yuki, a marine biologist in the Pacific, and Gabriel, an indigenous guide from the Amazon. Each of them had experienced similar awakenings, their dormant abilities triggered by the approaching Horizon Fleet. But the enemy had found the others first. The Horizon Fleet's advance agents, shape-shifting beings called shadows, had captured 14-year-old Amara from Kenya and 10-year-old Jin from Mongolia. Only Kira, a young Aborigine tracker from Australia, remained unfound by either side. Isabella stood in the converted military command center, watching global displays track both their successes and failures. The archivists had provided technology to shield the found awakened ones from detection, but time was running out. The Horizon Fleet's massive ships now filled Earth's telescopes, their forms blocking out entire star fields. "We can't access the defense network without all 7, Raj said, his newly awakened knowledge complementing Isabella's. "And even if we find Kira, we'll need to rescue Amara and Jin." The shadows had taken their captives to a hidden base in Antarctica, converting an abandoned research station into a fortress of alien technology. Satellite images showed strange energies pulsing around the facility, keeping the young awakened ones trapped inside. "The Horizon Fleet arrives in 12 hours, the primary archivist announced. Without all 7 awakened ones united at the primary nexus point, Earth's defense network cannot be activated. The planet will be defenseless." Isabella felt the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. The knowledge within her mind showed her what would happen if they failed. The Horizon Fleet wouldn't destroy Earth, but they would lock humanity into a technological dark age, ensuring they could never reach the stars again. "Then we go get them," she said firmly. "All of them." What followed was the most daring operation in human military history. While one team raced to the Australian outback to find Kira, Isabella led a joint task force of special forces and archivist warriors to Antarctica. The assault on the Shadow Base became a battle between 2 ancient powers, with humanity caught in the middle. The rescue mission succeeded, but at a cost. The Shadows had begun the process of corrupting Jin and Amara's abilities, trying to turn them into weapons against their own planet. Racing back to the Atacama Desert with all 7 awakened ones finally united, Isabella knew their greatest challenge still lay ahead: the bridge between worlds. The Horizon Fleet arrived as the 7 children stood around the primary nexus point. Above them, thousands of massive ships filled the sky, their weapons powered and ready. Humanity watched through every screen and device as their fate hung in the balance. "Last chance, awakened ones," the Horizon Fleet's commander transmitted globally. "Surrender and accept isolation, or face the consequences of remembering." Isabella looked at her fellow awakened ones, each carrying a piece of humanity's forgotten legacy. Jin and Amara were still shaking off the Shadow's influence, but their determination was clear. Raj, Yuki, Gabriel, and Kira stood ready, their combined knowledge finally complete. "We didn't choose to forget," Isabella transmitted back. "Our ancestors made that choice for us, but we choose to remember." As the Horizon Fleet opened fire, the 7 children joined hands. Their combined abilities activated the global network of nexus points, and Earth's ancient defense system awakened. A shield of pure energy surrounded the planet, but it wasn't just a barrier, it was a bridge. Through their connected minds, Isabella and the others showed humanity the truth. Every person on Earth experienced visions of their species' forgotten history among the stars. They saw the wonders their ancestors had built, the alliances they had forged, and the terrible weapon they had created that led to their self-imposed exile. But they also saw the wisdom gained from that choice. Humanity had used its time of isolation to learn, to grow, to understand the value of peace and cooperation. They were ready to rejoin galactic civilization, not as conquerors or weapons builders, but as bridges between worlds. The Horizon Fleet's weapons fell silent as their commanders witnessed the change sweeping through humanity. The 7 Awakened Ones had done more than activate a planetary defense system. They had awakened humanity's cosmic memory and proved their species had evolved beyond their ancient mistakes. "We accept humanity's awakening," the Horizon Fleet commander finally transmitted. "The quarantine is lifted." As the alien ships departed, transformed from invaders to escorts, Isabella and her fellow Awakened Ones began their real work. They would guide humanity back to the stars, serving as living bridges between Earth and the coalition of worlds. But this time, they would remember their history and learn from it. The desert wind swept across the Atacama as Isabella hugged her father, no longer just a curious 12-year-old girl, but part of something vast and wonderful. Above them, the stars seemed brighter, filled with possibilities and old friends waiting to be remembered. "Ready for what comes next?" her father asked. Isabella smiled, feeling the connection to her fellow Awakened Ones and the infinite potential of humanity's new path. "We all are," she said. "We finally remember who we were meant to be." And across Earth, as humans looked up at the stars with new understanding, they knew she was right. Their long isolation was over. The bridge between worlds had been rebuilt, and humanity's true journey was just beginning. Last edited 16 minutes ago.